Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Now, I'm gonna just kind of go over this one more time. I kind of flubbed things a little bit with the last episode in the Alchemist build guide. I needed to announce that, well, we need to vote on what the next character class is gonna be. And since we've already covered Fighter, Monk, Witch, and Alchemist, I'd like for those four to be kind of out right now. There are other variations to these builds we can do, and certainly Fighter in particular I want to redo because I can do it much better now. But I want to review and take a look at some of the other classes and come up with some fun and effective guides for you all out there. So please go down below to the comments, cast your votes down below. I'd love to know what we're doing next. But for today we are taking a look at something a little bit different. Today we are taking a look at the 7 sins of character creation. What those 7 sins are, we'll be covering in great detail, starting now. That's right, number 7 is what I call the go nowhere. This is someone who has written an extensive, exquisite, very detailed, lengthy character backstory. This could be about 3 to 7 pages. I've even seen some players write out 12 or 20 pages for their character with this incredible story. Some really engaging stuff, lots of detail, lots of background there. Some DMs and storytellers bemoan this quite a bit. I don't. I'm not among them. I love having this much ammunition to use against the player or to incorporate within my own story. I don't mind that at all. And I don't know, I've never found it super difficult or all that tricky. And besides, I tell the players, give me some detail. Otherwise, I'm going to add details in. I will add backstory to you if I find stuff lacking, because I like for there to be these prior entanglements and relationships and activities that the player has been up to, that the character has been up to, rather. And it just makes for a better, more engaging story. This person, however, with all of this done and set and complete, ready to go at the table with the character all ready to roll, and they do very little RP. They don't go anywhere with it. They don't do anything with it. They don't have moments where they're like, hey, I'd like to introduce this, or I'd like to go over that. Whether they talk to me outside of gameplay or during, if, they're like, hey, I know my mom lives in this area. I'd like to go visit her or something. They don't do any of that. They don't do anything to advance either the main plot, the personal story, or engage in any sort of side activities. They are just kind of there, contributing to combat, maybe throwing in a couple of skill checks, but very, very minimal RP and really not doing much of anything, and that is more frustrating than anything. However, it's not the only one on this list, and I should mention now that I have not listed these in any particular, well, they're somewhat vaguely in a least to worst kind of category here, but you get a sense for what I'm talking about as we go along. For now, we go up to the next deadly sin of gaming. My name is unimportant, but I'm no friends McBackstab. I've been orphaned 3 times. I've lost my brothers 5 times, and I only have 2 brothers. I have no friends, but somehow I'm immensely popular with everyone, especially the ladies, as they go for my mysterious bad boy rugged exterior. Also, I have horrific facial scars that somehow do nothing to disfigure me, but only enhance my hotness and good looks. The Edgelord. The Edgelord is awful. Awful, awful, awful. It's like a very bad take on Batman and misses the point that Batman's a fucking mess. And also that Batman's personality is reflected in most of his rogues gallery. But that's a whole nother discussion. Edgelords are a dime a dozen. The characters are just very uninteresting. They're one-dimensional. There's really not much to them. The only time I've really ever seen this edgy sort of character done well is when it's a complete farce. It's just a front put up by the skill monkey character, usually a rogue with a good charisma and some considerable investment in bluff and sense motive and the like, so that they can put on this front, put on this facade, and pretend like they're this brooding badass when really they're just like, holy shit, I can't believe that worked. Literally, just don't do this. This is just so old. It's trite. I don't know. It's just not interesting. It's not really fun, and it's just, I don't know. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And here we have what I call the exotic. This is someone who, even though you've said, hey, let's limit this to mostly base races or races that have only a +1 challenge rating, something very minimal that's easy to still kind of keep in some sort of balance with the rest of the players. And then they'll still insist on asking, hey, I want to play a half dragon. I want to be a half demon. I want to be a half celestial. It's like, no, 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 and no. Those get too many stat bonuses, too many extra abilities. It's a pain to balance out against the other characters. Not only that, because like a D20 Modern, a half dragon's like a +4 challenge rating, meaning at level 1 it's strong enough to count somewhere around the tune of a 5th level character. Kind of. It's probably closer to 4th, but anyways, you get the idea. You've told them no, but then they still want to ask and pester about this, or they still want to they'll still bring their character complete rolled and then pout when you tell them no, or, hold up the whole game while they have to roll up a new one, or at least delay their introduction. And that can be a bit frustrating, quite a bit frustrating, honestly, because the whole group wants to just kind of keep going and play and not deal with all of this. And thankfully, most of my players don't really do this too terribly much, but from time to time it does happen. I get asked if I can play this weird exotic race, that weird exotic race. Anyways, don't do this. Just communicate early, communicate before game, and, if somebody rules no, then just go with the no and pick something else. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. And coming around to number 4. Number 4 is the last minute. Now, what do I mean by the last minute? This is the person who does not roll up their character until literally right at the game table on game night. This can be, things happen. We all get busy. Things just slip our minds. Totally fine. Absolutely fine with that. It happens from time to time. But this person consistently, always never has their character ready. They're never prepared. It's not uncommon for them to just kind of pass the buck over real quick and have somebody else roll up their character. For my group, that was usually me, and maybe that's why this gripe goes up a little bit higher. But on the plus side, I did get to a point where I could whip out people's characters really quick, really fast, and they'd have something pretty functional that would work out pretty well. This person also probably consistently forgets to level up their character as well. Although, again, things happen. Sometimes things just slip your mind. But it happens a lot. And in the cases of character classes like the Alchemist or Wizard, anything with full spellcasting abilities, that can take a little bit of time because there's a certain amount of, spell selection and all the leveling up, distributing skill points and stuff. So, better to have your character done ahead of time as much as possible. And if you're having problems, let your DM know. Let another player know. Especially if you're new, talk to someone, and one of your friends, especially since they are your friends, or even if you're going to an adventurers league, if you know somebody there, they're probably going to be willing to help you out and help you kind of sort out what's going on with your character and how to put it all together. Don't show up to the table with your character incomplete. It's just terrible. You hold everything up. It's never good. Like all the others, don't do this. Number 3 is in a similar vein to the exotic. This is the third partier. They go to all these different third-party sources, they look up all the homebrew material, and they start throwing their character together based around that. Now, I should mention, if a player talks to me beforehand and lets me know that this is kind of what they want to do, and give me an opportunity to take a look at the material, I'm more likely to approve it ahead of time. It's when people just show up to the table without really telling me much about what's going on, and they just have this character with this class and these abilities I really hadn't heard of before. It's like, okay, this is a bit of a problem. I'd have no idea. Most of the time, it's usually broken in a way that's largely the character's ineffective. They're weak in comparison to a lot of the other character classes, even some of what you might call the lower tier classes. They don't function very well, or they are so broken and overpowered that there's just really not a whole lot you can do about them other than just ban the character, make the player roll something else, or just retool the character into something else all the way around that does something similar. Third-party materials, always tricky. And again, when I say third party, I'm including homebrew stuff in the middle of that. Sometimes homebrew just works for a very specific kind of setting, and throwing it into different things can kind of mess things up a little bit. Certainly, again, if you have a heads up ahead of time and your DM approves it, then, hey, no big deal. Everything here should be taken in with the fact in mind that context is important and is relevant to a lot of these. But we're not done. We have 2 more to go here. And coming in at number 2 is one that I particularly dislike, and that is the legend. The legend is already a mythological figure. They have slain giants, they're war heroes, they've killed dragons, they've solved problems in their village. They are an incredible fighter, a powerful mage, an incredibly gifted rogue. But they're level 1, or maybe level 2. It's like this backstory just doesn't sync up with what we're starting off with. If this were level 5, I could work with that. Level 8, sure, definitely. And certainly by level 10 at least, this is going to be a figure of some renown. They're going to have accomplished things, done great deeds, already have stories and rumors swirling all about them. And this pairs up really nicely with those longer, larger backstories. But players that do this tend to do a lot of these grandiose things. They're the children of nobility, they're royal guards, and it's like, if you're royal guard, why are you level 1? I mean, you're at best you're an exceptionally skilled soldier. You have a great amount of ability, but you lack the experience to capitalize on that ability as effectively. Eventually, yeah, this character could become a royal guard. They could become a hero. They could become a high mage of some prestigious wizard college. But it's just, going so big so early, it irks me a little bit. It's like, okay, this doesn't sync up in any way, shape, or form. This doesn't add up. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I know that this bothers a lot of other DMs, just with discussions I've had with people over the years, message boards, in person, etc., etc. So there's nothing wrong with being a badass. But level 1 is not a badass, not even level 3. Once you hit level 5, then yeah, you start doing these different things. You're taking on ogres with maybe not entirely with a relaxed ease, but certainly you're capable of it. And ogre's no mean feat by any stretch of the imagination. So don't go so big early. Plan out. This is the chart, the course you've charted for your character. This is the direction you want to go, and having that vision in your head crystallized so early on is great, and you can use that and certainly work with your DM for that. But all things again in context to make sure you're writing to fit where the character is at. If you're low level, you're just starting on this journey to being a badass. If you're level 10, then hey, no problem. Be as badass with your background as you need to be. But make it fit. And number one is a subject I've gone on about at some length through different episodes over the last couple of years, and that's the power gamer. Power gamers typically encompass a lot of the traits from the various other sins that we've gone through over this list, and that's why they're particularly at number one for me, and I find the most irksome and troublesome. I really don't like gaming with power gamers because there is only the focus on the raw numbers. I know I'm putting together build guides here for building effective characters, but I'm not teaching you to build broken characters, or at least not trying to. Full spellcasting classes tend to break a lot of different things really well, really easily, but that's besides the point. Here we are pointing out what is effective mechanically, what's ineffective, but I also try to make the effort to point out, hey, this might be mechanically ineffective, especially for straight up combat, but this fits with the motif that's built around the class. This fits that flavoring. It's just enriches the character and really goes with the concept quite nicely. And so it may be worth picking up from that roleplay standpoint just to have that in place. And certainly, working with your DM, you can retool some of these spells or, technically create other spells to kind of make these less mechanically effective variations work for you in a more effective manner. But, that all just comes down to context. The power gamer is not concerned with any of that. The power gamer is just concerned with having the biggest numbers, having bigger numbers than everybody else, and doing all things well because they have so many good numbers. There's no role play. They will find all the different esoteric races, stat allocations, different traits, character classes that synergize really well with specific feats, even reaching out to third-party and homebrew things. So like I said, this comes together with a lot of different traits from these other gaming or character creation sins that I've talked about, and it just coalesces into this thing where it's just, there's no story, there's no thought, there's other than, putting together all the numbers into something really big. But that's just not fun. I've never found that to be all that fun. And certainly if you do, if that's what you're into, that's what your party likes, that's what your group does, then hey, more power to you. I've just never found any enjoyment with that because I like story. I love having story elements come in. And not only that, but focusing so much on numbers and nitpicking over these weird little esoteric rules, I think creates a certain amount of inflexibility for certain things as well too, because certainly I am willing to bend the rules here or there for a cool idea, not necessarily something powerful, but something neat, something fun, an interesting use for a power that I hadn't considered before, that's explicitly not against the rules, but not really ruled in any way, shape, or form either. So focusing so much on just the raw data and numbers and using these different rules to your advantage to build up this ungodly character with no weaknesses is just anathema, I think. I think that just really isn't all that fun. But that's my take. Certainly it's not the only one. Certainly I could see where, not for power gaming. Power gamers, again, if you have fun with that, go have fun with that, but you probably won't have as much fun with me if the numbers are all you care about. But please, if there are any other things that irk you, go down to the comments below, type out your horror stories, let me know the different character creation sins you've encountered that really bother you that maybe I didn't list here. I'd certainly love to talk about it and discuss it. Who doesn't love a good vent session to just let all that irritation out? And if you enjoyed today's video, maybe consider going down there and giving me a like. And if you did enjoy everything you've seen today, well, I've got 2 other videos over here that maybe you'll enjoy. And if you've been enjoying content here overall at the Gamers Den, well, hell, why not consider subscribing and becoming a regular, if I could talk, a regular member and join the alumni here at the Gamers Den. Certainly, I would love to have you, and, well, I think I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there, actually. With that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Don't forget to vote for what we are doing for the next step in the player's guide for character creation. Have yourselves a good night.